Hello, everyone. I'll be with you shortly. Thanks for being here again on a Sunday evening in the States or Europe and Monday morning here in Asia. So I'll be with you shortly. Thanks again for spending your time with us. Hello again, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Silver Bullion Television SBTV. This is the live stream, Monday edition, Monday morning in Asia, Sunday night over in the States, or perhaps even in Europe, or early Monday morning over in Europe. So thanks again for being here. Excuse me. Quick roll call. Hope everyone had a happy Easter for those who do celebrate it. Happy Easter. Mr. Nguyen, how you doing? Theta One, John Michael Karma, how you doing? Randy Osborne, um, good conversation you got going on. Fat Vegan, how you doing? Wide Winger, first time I've seen you here. Welcome aboard. If you are new or if this is your first time here, go ahead and type in new and where you're from, and we'll see if we can acknowledge you. And yes, we appreciate those thumbs ups. Johnny Bravo, yeah, I remember Johnny Bravo. How you doing, Johnny Bravo? Mr. Schultz, James Schultz, James Richter, how you doing? BK Travelog, thank you. How you doing? Mutant Ref, yep, waiting for a donut. I'll be talking about donuts for sure. And it's something maybe some of you heard, maybe some of you didn't, but we'll be talking about that. Patrick Bateman, how you doing? Again, Theta One, Polynesian Pip Aloha, how you doing? Okay, LC Grow Mechanic. All right, so again, thank you all for being here. And if it is your first time here, or if you haven't already done so, please do subscribe, hit the bell to be notified on updates, and give us a thumbs up. We really do appreciate the thumbs up. And you can also find us on social media. Silverbullion.com.sg is our webpage. We do specialize in wealth protection, systemic wealth protection. We do sell silver and gold, even nickel for EV. For those of you who want exposure to electric vehicles or their battery components, we do sell nickel. So a lot of things there that we do have that could interest you. Silver Bullion SG is our handle for Facebook. Twitter, Silver Bullion PL for private limited. Audio versions, bit.ly, SBTV iTunes, or SBTV Spotify. And if you have that Telegram app for your desktop or your mobile phone, please do go ahead and search for Crisis Tracker. And that is our group where we go ahead and post news as it pertains to finance, economics, and of course, things like gold and silver. So we kind of sift through the weeds so you don't have to. So again, welcome aboard, everyone. Glad you're here. Let's see. Michael Sayer, how you doing? How you doing? I see you on Twitter quite a bit, I believe. How you doing? Um, Lillian Winston, how you doing? First time I've seen you here as well. Welcome aboard. So again, if you're new, go ahead and type in new and where you're from, and we'll see if we can go ahead and acknowledge you there. Upcoming guest is going to be Egon von Greyers, the president and founder of Matterhorn Asset Management and the founder and managing partner of Gold Switzerland. Egon does specialize also in wealth preservation. So again, we're here in Asia. Egon is over there in Switzerland. So we got you covered wherever you may be throughout the world. So let me just scroll down a bit. Yeah, Fat Vegan, thank you. We appreciate that. Uh, yeah, hit the like button, like train. It's always appreciated. I mean, I think folks know that Facebook has been kind of been suppressing us more. Not Facebook, but YouTube has been suppressing us since last year around election time. So we do appreciate the thumbs up and whatever help we can get. So again, thank you all for being here. And our ebook thank you giveaway is going to be again, we're going to go with the Silver Manifesto, a detailed examination of an incredibly underappreciated asset class, which is, of course, precious metals, notably silver. And this book does take an in depth look at all aspects of the silver market, including but not confined to the monetary aspect of silver, peak silver, phases of inflation, fractional reserve banking, and building a precious metals portfolio, and of course, much, much, much more. So that book from David Morgan, ebook, ebook. So house rules: download the Kindle app from your phone or tablet's app store. And there is also even a desktop version, which is pretty nice. Be the first to answer correctly in this live stream, or actually, we'll take the top five. If there's three, first five to answer correctly in this live stream before the timer runs out, which is going to be about a minute and 30 seconds. And then U.S. winners will be given a link to download the ebook. Winners outside the U.S. will be given an alternative prize, and that is because, again, Amazon or Kindle, they don't allow ebooks or gifts anyway to be given outside the U.S. So we'll have to figure something else out for you. And then, of course, provide us an email during this live stream. So what will happen is my colleague Vincent is standing by, and he'll go ahead and mute your comments, and then that way you can go ahead and send us your email, and nobody else will see it except for us. So, Fat Vegan, again, I guess you're going to be collecting taxes this time, huh? You're not going to be paying taxes like a few of us. Yep, let's buy silver and gold. There you go. Help yourselves, help your family. So, Fat Vegan, we appreciate it. I guess you're looking for a tax return, but thank you for the donation. Really do appreciate it. So, having said that, we're going to go ahead and get started with the ebook giveaway, and it's going to come from our interview with Gregor Gregersen. Question is, when you buy silver, no one cares, but when you blank blank, prices start going up. So again, you have a little bit over a minute. When you buy silver, no one cares, but when you blank blank, prices start to go up. So it's when you do something with silver, prices start to go up. So go ahead and just take your best shot here. Just take a guess, and we'll see if anybody gets it. We'll take the first five if we do have five, and go ahead and send you that David Morgan Kindle ebook Silver Manifesto. So take a shot. When you buy silver, no one cares, but when you blank blank, prices start going up. Let's see. Do care. Silver squeeze. Sell silver. Some answers starting to come in. Sell in short. Sell silver. Okay, we'll keep it going. See what else is out there. Sell silver. Suppress price. Buy more. Sell silver. Sell silver. A lot of people are looking at sell silver. Excuse me. Okay. Buy Bitcoin. Excuse me. Sell silver. I can sell silver is not the answer, so I'll just say that. So we got a little bit more time. Hold it. Who sells? Need it. Print money. Okay, time's up. Buy more. So okay, that's it. Fortunately, no winners, but maybe we'll look for some great comments, and maybe we'll go ahead and give out the prize for that. Lloyd, yes, you got it right, but it's a bit late, and here is the answer.
Warren Buffett did that back in early 1990s. He took delivery of a lot of silver. When he bought, nobody cared. When he said, I want delivery, suddenly silver prices ended up stacking up, and COMEX couldn't deliver, and COMEX actually had to pay Warren not to take delivery. And then a lot of people figured out, oh, that's actually a good idea. Why don't we all start asking for delivery? And that's when comics put in a lot of restrictions on how much silver you can take out. And I took delivery myself once to try the system out. Make a long story short, if you're industrial users, you most likely can get it. If you're an investor, you only can have a small amount, after which you won't be able to take delivery.
Okay, so and this is kind of what we're seeing today, where people are buying, demand is high, supply is stressed, as well as even the supply chains, and therefore premiums go up. This all being a function of taking delivery. So, if you can, yes, do absolutely take delivery, take the real thing. Want to play a couple more clips from that interview with Gregor, so let's see what else he had to say.
The funny thing is that I always see is when silver is $12, nobody wants it. When silver is $25, people start getting interest. When silver is $35, they start telling me how cheap it is. It's for some reason when it's around 35, that's the time when the media is starting to report more about it, and it becomes more in people's minds, and they're looking towards gold, and suddenly it seems cheap at $35. So that's sort of what we've been seeing. So if you have a choice between gold and silver, buy what you think you're more comfortable with. I will tend towards silver, but 65, is a lot more balanced based on the last 50 years.
Okay, so just got a message from my colleague Vincent. 5 of you won. So okay, 5 of you guys out there won. He'll contact you and he'll mute your comments, and you can go ahead and give him your email. So for some of us, we look at it as prices falling because maybe nobody wants it. It's not that desirable. There are better things. Some of us look at it as a buying opportunity when prices start to fall, and others are looking for gold to confirm the silver price. So there's a lot of different reasons why we may not be buying when we should. Thing is, when we do this, we're only looking at the investment side of silver. Are there better investments than silver? Of course. I mean, I'll be the first to tell you that, although we often forget the insurance aspect or the insurance component that silver provides, and there are few things better than silver, better than gold. Here's another clip from that interview with Gregor.
But if a customer says, I want more transparency, I actually want to see my bar. I want to make sure, and they can use gram chain in their own ways. Gram chain just makes sure the bar is there and you get all these details and so on. So if there's an increased demand, and talking with wealth managers and other entities, we are seeing more and more demand. And as people become aware of it, and as movements like the short squeeze on silver raises that awareness, um, people are going to start looking for some ways of how we create transparency. And when it comes to transparency, I think gram chain is hard to beat.
Okay, so excuse me. There are questions about gram chain and what is it. I'll just give a very, very brief overview, and I would say that if COMEX or SLVs were using gram chain, or if the vaults were using gram chain, there would be a whole lot more transparency. So this is at www.gramchain.net, and this is what Gregor was talking about. So I'll just scroll down a bit and I'll click on View Explorer. There are other things here, but I'm not going to really get into it. This will be for another day. So View Explorer, what is gram chain about? Here you can see on the left, there are a few places, and I'll just use the safe house here in Singapore. And what you'll see are the actual physical bars themselves. Okay, so you can see it here. It's for everyone to see. Okay, so let me go back a bit. And so what happens is these bars are actually verified and proven. In fact, let me go back here. So what happens is when these bars come in, I don't think you can see it, but there's one down here. They're scanned. Okay, so it goes into the vault, and the vault actually scans it, proves its existence, proves its weight, proves its purity. Okay, so these things are proven by the vault itself when it goes into the vault. And then what happens is that vault will assign custody. Okay, the vault will say who I don't want to use the word own, but who has custody of the vault? Could be you, could be me, or in this case, it could be Cash, which is Cash Gold Token. So what happens is this company Cash comes in, they will go ahead and take over this bar and use it to create their Cash Gold tokens, so that their tokens are actually backed by gold. So in this case, this is one of the gold bars that backs Cash Gold tokens, which is one CGT or Cash Gold token for 1 gram. So in a nutshell, like I said, I don't want to go too deep into it, but it's pretty interesting because if bars on comics were identified and tracked the way Gram Chain does it, CFTC, or you hope you guys are watching. I know you're not, but anyway, this is for you. I mean, this is a way to actually have some transparency in the system, especially the ETFs right now. So, all we have are paper claims of ownership and on a bar, but you don't really know much about that bar if it really exists. So this is what Gram Chain does. It proves to us that it really does exist. So I'll move on a bit. And, just let me say this. If you're a precious metal guy that is not familiar with crypto, blockchain tokens, especially gold backed tokens, Gram Chain is what proves the gold for a gold backed token like Cash or CGT does exist. And you can take delivery of it almost anywhere in the world. In my view and in my opinion, there's I don't see any more of a transparent system out there. So this is something, we're hearing all of this, silver bars on Comex being leased out over and over and over again. If there were something like Gram Chain that Comex were using or the vaults were using, wouldn't be happening. It wouldn't be happening, and it would be a lot more transparent. So if you're storing gold in a vault, or if you have gold backed tokens, hey, ask your vault or your gold backed token provider if they're using Gram Chain. Again, this is at www.gramchain.net. So let me move on a bit. And then we had Andy, excuse me, guys. We had Andy Schectman on, and it was a pretty good interview. So I just want to go over a few clips from that Andy Schectman interview as well.
You have an expansion of interest, but you also have not just by the little guy, but by the big guy too. And the big guy is draining the shelves from the top on down, whether it be 1,000-ounce bars on Comex or just going in and making large purchases from dealers around the globe. It's becoming harder and harder to get, and the end result is much higher premiums that would most certainly affect the little guy. And that's why I say on these dips, buy the dips. Don't chase the rips. Buy the dips. And this is a dip. And if you can buy 1 or 2 or 3 ounces and put it away, do it.
Okay, so how many of you bought the dip? We saw silver dip down, I believe I think it even reached 23, high 23 last week. So how many of you bought the dip? And what Andy said is entirely true, and it ties up perfectly with what Gregor was saying about, a lot of people didn't buy silver at that $12 price point, but they did buy it at 30 for whatever reasons, whether it was gold confirming the silver price or a little bit of FOMO. We tend to do that, myself included, when we should be buying at a lot lower price and taking delivery of it. So another clip from Andy Schectman.
In both gold and silver, I think you'll see prices go to where we all think they will, but may not happen the way that we've all drawn it up in our mind. Ultimately, it will. Put it away, put it in your safe, buy on the dips, and be glad that you've been able to accumulate it while it's still here. Because price is a tool of misdirection. The price that we see right now is in nowhere near reflective of the demand that we're seeing globally, whether it be down here at the 1 ounce level or all the way up there on the Comex at the 1,000-ounce bar level and everywhere in between.
Okay, so prices, I think we all know this. Prices just are not aligned with supply and demand and availability. And prices, I'm referring to spot prices. Some call it paper prices, some call it paper trading prices, but it's not aligned with the actual physical. And in the industry, we often talk about how that paper price, it does unfortunately control the physical price. And but one day, it is going to be torn up and blown away. The two it just can't stay like this much more of a longer time, considering we're seeing supply issues, demand issues, supply chain issues, and yet spot prices is down. So these things are they're starting to get decoupled. Will they decouple fully? I mean, we've all thought that it would before, but it didn't. But it is starting to to surface or bubble up a bit more that these two it just can't be so. And we are on a path and getting nearer to that day when it actually happens. So another clip from Andy Schectman.
I think that people should own bullion as wealth, and they should own mining shares as an investment. And in terms of the ETFs, I wouldn't own them with a 10-foot pole. The only one that I would own if I had no other choice would be the Sprott funds, PSLV, PHYS, as Eric Sprott, and the Sprott Corporation is synonymous with integrity and honesty. And I do not feel that way even remotely about GLD and SLV.
Okay, so there you go. Perfectly said. Own physical bullion as wealth, own mining shares as an investment. And that pretty much sums it up. Before I move on, I just want to make sure that you gentlemen here, Daddy Fought Lloyd Kaipanen, I probably messed up your last name. Please put your emails in chat if you want the Silver Manifesto ebook. What'll happen again, as I said, Vincent will mute your comments, and so that we can go ahead and we'll be able to see it, but no one else will. So again, thank you all for your participation there in the ebook giveaway. Appreciate it. So let's move on over to our website and take a look at what's going on with silver Monday morning here in Asia, here in Singapore. And we can see that silver is at 25.09, so it's trying to get comfortably back in that $25 price point. Gold was still hanging around 1730 where it was before. It's at 1729, just a little bit down. Nickel 16,290. Nickel's been kind of sideways for the past week or so, so we'll take a look and see what's going on there. Again, Investor Kit, it's free. Do download it, or you can just click on it here and take a look at it on the website. Some of the topics in here: why buy gold and silver, buying tax exempt, why silver bullion, and of course investing in electric vehicle battery metals. And we're going to see a little bit on that a bit later. And of course, do sign up for a storage account. It is free. Silver to gold ratio 68.9, so it takes about 69 ounces of silver to equal 1 ounce of gold price wise. And again, some of our featured products: nickel. And this is because nickel is a key component for electric vehicle batteries, and we already know governments are moving towards electric vehicles. And LBMA bars, which is quite a hot commodity right now. A lot of people are buying these bars. So let me just take a quick peek. We're at 344. We were at just above 400 not that long ago. So again, these 1,000 ounce bars are on the move. So we'll see how they continue to move. And this is something where, a lot of people will store it. If you do store it, you're going to have to sign up as a silver bullion user. So what will happen is you just simply click here, sign up, and then you can choose different accounts: the personal account, which is for yourself, a joint account, perhaps you and your spouse, trust accounts, joint account with the miner, business accounts, and of course retirement accounts. These are really more for like precious metals, IRAs. And I think, these are something, again, that people should be looking into. I mean, we're seeing the stock markets go up, and that does mean your 401k more than likely has gone up quite a bit as well. So you want to make sure that that you protect some of what you have in that 401k if you can roll it over into a precious metals IRA. And no matter which account you choose, again, very basic information. As in a personal account, it's just your ID, typically a passport, and just signing the application. That's all you would need, and just a few more pieces of information here. And as always, do not forget to go ahead and click on YouTube or SBTV. That also helps us out quite a bit. You can send for newsletters, and we don't really spam with newsletters. They're usually pretty they're meaningful. They aren't just spam. And I would say also do tick this. If you sign up for an account, I would suggest you tick this. I want to receive customer notifications via encrypted secure notification. What that means is you'll get an email from us saying you have a message, and then you can go ahead and log into the website, see what that message is, as opposed to a full-on email in the body, the content in the body where, it passes through Google, passes through Yahoo, and you never know. You just never know who might be looking at it. So this is a better way for you to communicate with us via secure notification. Looking at Twitter real quick. And this one was pretty interesting. I looked at the numbers for the reverse repo, and it was huge, about 290 billion. And what's a reverse repo? Well, let me show you first what the numbers were, and then we'll go ahead and take a look at what a reverse repo is real quick. So this is what I came across. So this is last week, Thursday. There was no Friday. It was closed. So Thursday, when you look at the reverse repo, which is here, 9.5 billion. Okay, 9.5 billion. You go back to Wednesday, again, reverse repo, 134 billion. So the Fed is getting very, very active again in the repo markets. We'll go back to Tuesday, reverse repo, 104 billion. Okay, and I don't think you're hearing very much of this in the news, but the Fed is extremely active again in the repo market. And Monday, first day of last week, Monday, March 29th, they were in it for another 40 billion. So again, the Fed is getting extremely active in the repo market. And here's a little explainer, just a brief explainer of what that is. Just a brief explanation on reverse repos. Okay, so let's say this is a repo. Let's go to reverse repo. Okay, so this guy explains it as a pawn shop. So let me just start from here. So what happens is when a big financial institution wants to, say, make a loan, but it doesn't quite have enough cash to do it, it basically, let's just say, goes to a pawn shop, okay, to pawn off its bonds. It goes something like this. So the Bank of Stacy, let's say, hey, repo pawn shop for banks, listen, I need some cash to lend to my friend who wants to buy a factory, and she's going to pay me back with 5% interest. So can I pawn these bonds? You give me some cash for them, but keep the bonds on hand for me because I'm going to come back for them later. I'll buy them back for a little bit more than you paid, and you can make a little bit of money. So this is exactly like going to a pawn shop, okay? You give them an item, they give a value on it, and you're going to come back and get it back out, and you're going to pay a little bit more. You're going to pay an interest on it. So it's almost exactly like a pawn shop. So repo pawn shop for banks. Sounds cool. Here's some cash. Hand over the bonds. They'll be safe with me. I'll sell them back to you when you have cash again. Good luck with your factory friend. Now, in reality, the pawn shop is another bank or financial institution, and they do this with one another all the time. One day, one money market mutual fund is the pawn shop. Another day, it's the one doing the pawning. Incidentally, the fact that the two financial institutions agree that the bonds will get repurchased is why it's called a repo agreement. Okay, this is why it's called repo agreement. It's very different from, let's say, the repo man who possesses your car when you don't pay. So the point is, the repo market is like a pawn shop for financial institutions, and it helps them lend. So now, what's a reverse repo? It's what you do to get financial institutions like the Bank of Stacy to not lend so much or so generously. Okay, so apparently the Fed does not want banks to lend, according to this explanation. Now, perhaps you are the Fed 4 years in the future and you are worried about inflation because people are lending too much. Here's how you do it. So remember, the Fed was giving all these money to the banks, and the banks are supposed to be lending it out. Well, according to this explanation, now you're the Fed who's worried about inflation. So you're the Fed, you go to the bank and you say, this is the Federal Reserve reverse repo pawn shop. Listen, I know you wanted to lend to your friend and get 5% interest back, but that's awfully low. I don't think you should be so generous. In fact, why don't you just lend that factory money to me? Lend it to me instead of your friend. I'm not going to build a factory with it. I'm not going to do anything with it. I'll pawn my bonds to you and I'll buy them back later for 10% more than you gave me. It'll be like you're making 10% interest. So, what about your friend? Or let's say, what about us who are in the real market? Well, can she pay 10% interest? I don't think so. So, if you could just go ahead and lend me the money. Okay, thanks. Bye. And so, I mean, that's why this is important because the Fed is really buying and selling at will. And I think you can already call this yield curve control. Okay, so I'll move on a bit off of Twitter already. Um, remember a few months back, Fed Chairman Jerome Powell said something along the lines of, "We're not going to be returning to the same economy." Excuse me. And one thing for sure, we know the new economy that it will be is the meme economy. We're already seeing that, and you just need to go ahead and look around. You'll see it. But there's a new economy emerging, and to understand it, I have to offer up this segment on basically getting donuts for getting vaccinated. But it's a bit more to these donuts. But before I move on, just let me go ahead and take a look at some of the comments out there. Okay, a lot of you guys have been buying gold and silver. I see that, so that's good. VK Travelog, you're pretty active in buying, so that's good. You can see what's coming ahead, so good for you. Absolutely good. Let's see. George Gammon suing the Fed. Didn't know about that one. Okay, good luck. Good luck to George. We'll see what happens with that. See what else is out there. Okay. Let's see. Theta One. I'm buying coffee beans and cigarettes. Some guys are buying seeds as well. I mean, you just never know what's going to be thought of as currency when a lot of these things start to come to fruition, when the economy or the currency really starts to get in trouble. So anyway, talking about donuts. So what happened was, I think most of us know this, where for the vaccine motivation, Krispy Kreme is giving away free donuts for showing a vaccination card through the end of 2021. And, originally in my nearsighted, myopic view, I thought, hey, free donuts as a prize. I mean, get the shot, get rewarded, get back to work, get the economy going. Seems like that's what the plan is. Now, little did I know the donut used to get the economy going would take on a new term called the donut economy. Now, maybe some of you have heard about this, maybe some of you haven't, but let me play a clip on what the donut economy is. After I just want to run through this real quick, because you do have places like, I believe it's Amsterdam, yeah, who are betting its post-COVID recovery on donut economics. Now, more cities are following suit. So this is real. Okay, this is real. This was just out in March 25th, 2021. The Dutch capital of Amsterdam became the first city worldwide to formally implement donut economics in early April last year. Belgium's capital city of Brussels went on to adapt the donut in late September, while the Canadian city of Nanaimo, not sure how to pronounce it, voted to follow suit in December. So scholars advocating for a new approach argue that the current economic system sacrifices both people and environments at a time when everything from shifting weather patterns to rising sea levels is global in scope and unprecedented in nature. So we see countries moving to this donut economics, and this is what it is.
This is the donut. The goal of the donut is to meet the needs of all people within the means of the planet. Sometimes when I present the ideas of donut economics, people say, is this capitalism, or is this communism, or is it socialism? And you think, really? Are these the only choices we have? The isms of the last century? Can we not come up with some ideas of our own and create new names for them and see new patterns? Governments in every country are almost addicted to citing GDP figures as if this was proof of success, and yet it's so clearly not. Because we have climate breakdown and COVID lockdown and financial meltdown, we have to pursue something far richer to move from this pursuit of endless growth, which we can now see is hitting us with crisis after crisis, moving to a goal of thriving. And the donut is absolutely possible to turn not into a single number, but into a dashboard. We could hold policymakers to account and say every year, you need to talk about how you are making progress on these different dimensions of the donut. Outside the donut is created by leading Earth system scientists just a decade ago. These are the 9 life-supporting systems of planet Earth. To have a stable climate, to have healthy oceans, to have recharging fresh water. And they drew these and called them the planetary boundaries. And they said we must stay in the circle in the middle. I thought, but if we go to the center of the circle, where we use hardly any of Earth's resources, that's not thriving. That is actually death and destitution for billions of people. We need to convert Earth's lands for food, for water, for housing, for energy. So I drew this inner circle and said, just as there is an outer limit of humanity's pressure on the planet, so too there must be an inner limit. So the hole in the middle is a place where people are left falling short on the essentials of life. It's where people don't have the food, water, energy, healthcare, housing, education, political voice that every person has a claim to meeting. We want to leave nobody in this hole, get everybody into the green ring of the donut itself.
Okay, yeah, I know for some of you it's kind of unbearable, huh? I get it. But is this UBI, Universal Basic Income, where we are all equal? I mean, is this what some of you have already pointed out? You will own nothing and be happy. And some of you, I saw the comments, some of you think, who would take this serious or things like that. But I just showed you there are countries already. I mean, you have the Amsterdam in the Netherlands. You have a city in Canada. It's real. It is real as much as you might think, it doesn't. If you're one of those guys who are thinking it sounds crazy, well, it's really happening. So is this some kind of UBI, Universal Basic Income? And why are we even talking about this on a gold and silver show? It's a fair question. Why are we even talking about this? Well, we need to talk about this because we need to know where the world is going. And if we know where the world is going, we will know what to do with our lives, our livelihood, and our loved ones. So that's why we're going to take a look at this. So here's another shorter clip on the donut.
Ever since the donut was first published in 2012, people have been wanting to downscale it to the scale of a city or a neighborhood or a nation. And Amsterdam is the first place where we've actually downscaled it. And I've worked together with an organization called Circle Economy, who have been helping the city devise their strategy.
Amsterdam having a very ambitious vision of becoming a fully circular city by 2050. What happens with the donut is that because it brings all these themes together of the social aspects and the environmental, you need to start a conversation with everybody in the room. We invited all different departments that they were not used to be part of this conversation. How can we create housing in Amsterdam that is available for all different incomes, at the same time is supporting the well-being of people who live in the house, and how does this construction is made with materials that reducing the global emissions and the climate. With the city donut, we suddenly see in the portrait of the city the impact that Amsterdam has in, let's say, Bangladesh, and people's life there that work in producing the clothes that we wear in Amsterdam, and how a city can start thinking about all this and creating strategies that are taking this into account.
The donut does not give us answers. You don't plug in a calculation and it tells you how to do it. What it does is provide a space for people to come together. In fact, in Amsterdam, the policymakers said, we now realize that if we're aiming to get into the donut, we need to change our own internal organization so that we're more holistic and connected in our planning and policy. And I think smart policymakers realize that they don't need a solution to financial crisis and a different one to climate crisis and a different one to health emergencies. They need a paradigm that no longer pushes for endless growth, but instead focuses on thriving, on resilience, and on well-being within communities.
I'm reading your comments, you guys. You guys are good. I mean, you guys are good. I'm reading these comments. Anyway, just letting you know I'm reading the comments. So growth, revenue, none of that matters. The ism of capitalism doesn't matter. So the flattening of economies, which essentially is what this is, flattening of economies, wallets, purses, bank accounts. What role do assets play? What role will your home play? What role will your investments play in a government looking to flatten and equalize both our physical and financial health? Again, donut economics, it is being tried and tested. And then it kind of dawned on me, though. I took a step back, and it's really only in the West where governments are talking this way. Whether it's the States or Europe, it's really in the West. And in Asia, I'll just say you don't really hear governments talking this way. You have governments encouraging entrepreneurship, governments encouraging business innovation. Not a flat financial world where yes, you own nothing and will be happy. And I'll touch on that in just a bit because it's kind of interesting here. But one more short clip on donut economics. So let's hang in there and be nice. I'm watching the comments.
We began with this downscaling in rich cities, in high-income nations, because they are the ones that have the greatest obligation to transform, to come back within planetary boundaries. But I believe the framework that we've created can absolutely be adapted and used in low-income countries and cities. In fact, in Costa Rica, they've just launched an initiative called Regenerate Costa Rica. They have an ambition to become one of the world's first regenerative nations, and they're using the donut as a framework for guiding them to that goal. It always looks like transformation is going to take many, many decades. And one thing I think we've seen in many countries from this COVID pandemic is that actually policies can happen almost overnight when governments decide to make them happen. Change is absolutely possible if we transform the political values and interests and the mindset.
Okay, guys, we made it. We survived the 3 clips from Donut economics. Okay, what was interesting here was she said something along the lines of, rich cities have the highest obligation to transform. Highest obligation to transform. Now, hey, I'm not Milton Friedman, okay, but if a city is rich, it's because of things like, not limited to, but things like high growth job sectors, high employment, and even perhaps high salaries can be found there. If that city has an obligation to transform, it means the people and businesses there that make the city rich are going to be the ones to transform. And what do we mean by transform? Well, you saw those gold coins in that clip. I'll show it real quick. From a few, how a few moved away from, how the gold coins moved away from a few people to more people. In other words, what you have is going to be taxed or taken or given away in a form of wealth distribution or wealth equality. So let me go back to that clip real quick and I'll show you. What I mean is let me get to it real quick. It's this part here where you have these these two people on the left, and they're colored gold, and then they have these gold coins, and then the scale tips in their power over the masses. Okay, so if you have some assets, and the masses, let's just say maybe they don't. Okay, but what happens is then you see the scale starts to tip from the few who have assets, starts to tip to the many who may not necessarily have these assets, and then they kind of get what you had, so then it goes to them. So this is kind of interesting to see how you may have some things, but it's going to be given to others. And it's I don't know really what can you say already at
From this
that point.
COVID
But again, rich cities have the highest obligation to transform. So they are going to be the ones that have to transform according to this donut economics, or flattening of wealth. Um, it's things are just a bit different the way things are moving now. So again, you saw those gold coins from a few move away from them and go to the many, shift the balance, and it's shifted the balance of wealth. In other words, again, what you have perhaps is going to be taxed or taken and given in a form of wealth distribution and equality of sorts, according to this donut economics, where nobody falls in that nobody falls in that hole. So, and this is why you often hear me talk about diversification. You not only need to diversify your assets, you need to diversify the location of your assets. And looking at where the West is going, really looking at the West, where the West is going, diversification of assets more than ever is becoming critically important to understand. There's a shift happening. It is happening right now, and you and I are caught up in it. And we need to see it for what it is, not for what we want it to be. And I'll show you this article as well, where Asia's future is now. So let me go down a bit through this article. Asia is on track to top 50% of global GDP by 2040 and drive 40% of the world's consumption, representing a real shift in the world's center of gravity. For years, Western observers and media have been talking about the rise of Asia in terms of its massive future potential, but the time has come for the rest of the world to update its thinking, because the future arrived even faster than expected. One of the most dramatic developments of the past 30 years has been emerging Asia's, or 30 years has been emerging Asia's soaring consumption and its integration into global flows of trade, capital, talent, and innovation. In the decades ahead, Asia's economies will go from participating in these flows to determining their shape and direction. Indeed, in many areas, from the internet to trade, luxury goods, they already are. The question is no longer how Asia or quickly Asia will rise. It's becoming how Asia will lead. Just play this real quick. Sorry about that. Okay, so let me get out of this real quick. Okay, so you know, as the West is scaling back to meet socioeconomic, climate needs, and so forth, West is scaling back, but Asia is scaling up and including those ideals in their growth as they scale up. So here again, on one hand, we have the West pulling back, and it's Asia who is carefully growing their economies and going forward. So we are seeing a shift here. But getting back to the West again, there seems to be a growing movement where UBI or universal basic income is the answer to financial and physical well-being post COVID. And again, this is not seen or heard of in Asia or the East as much as it is in the West. So UBI is government dependence, and I've long said that when the Fed put the punch bowl out for Wall Street and could not take it away from Wall Street, and then they went ahead and put another punch bowl out in front of Main Street, that Main Street would never be able to get away from the punch bowl, and we're starting to see this. So what is UBI, or a quick definition of UBI in case you haven't heard of it? Stands for Universal Basic Income. Okay, I'll just read this briefly. Universal Basic Income, or UBI, is a government program in which every adult citizen receives a set amount of money on a regular basis. The goals of a basic income system are to alleviate poverty and replace other need-based social programs that potentially require greater bureaucratic involvement. Kind of sounds like the donut here. The idea of universal basic income has gained momentum in the U.S. as automation increasingly replaces workers in manufacturing and other sectors of the economy. So, how is UBI, or universal basic income, being applied in a real world use case? So we can take a look at Finland as an example.
I'm in Finland. It's 1 year after the launch of a first-of-its-kind experiment here in the country. We're talking about universal basic income. Here's how it works. Researchers randomly selected 2,000 unemployed people between the ages of 25 and 58 from around Finland. Each month, those 2,000 people receive 560 euros, which is about $670 tax-free. What they do with the money is entirely up to them. The purpose of the experiment is to address unemployment here in Finland. The government hopes that it will encourage unemployed people to take jobs instead of being afraid of losing their unemployment benefits. So 1 year into the experiment, is it working? We went to Finland to find out. It wasn't easy finding someone who's actually receiving the free money. Researchers are keeping the names of the recipients private to try to keep the results consistent. But we did manage to find Mika Ruusinen on Facebook, and he agreed to meet us at his office in Tampere, about 2 hours north of Helsinki. So, we are going to meet Mika now at his office. He's here, he's agreed to meet us during his lunch break. The fact that we're meeting him at his office is actually a promising sign. It means he has a job, so we'll see what he has to say. Hi, Mika.
Hi.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet
I'm
you
Elizabeth.
too.
Thanks
Hi,
so much
Elizabeth.
for having us here today.
Okay, great. Actually,
Let's
go
get
inside.
started. Cool.
Yeah.
Mika was doing an internship at an IT company where he now works full-time when he found out he was selected for Finland's basic income trial. When you first found out that you were going to be part of the trial, did you tell people, or did you want to keep it secret?
When I first received the letter, I opened it. I didn't understand it at all, and so I gave it to my wife and asked about her what the heck is this.
Mika had been unemployed for 16 months before he decided to go back to school to switch career paths into IT. Do you find there's less bureaucracy than there was when you were receiving benefits for being unemployed?
Yeah, definitely, and that's the best part of the basic income, that it would mean much less bureaucracy. People who are using the system are already using the system. The basic income encourages people to do work.
Okay, less bureaucracy and encourages people to do work. So, okay, that's a little bit of a different twist. So UBI encourages people to do work, and there is less bureaucracy, as just mentioned. Although this does not entirely clear things up, such as where will the jobs come from? And we'll get into that in just a bit. But here's something else interesting as they went on to talk about UBI as they went a little bit deeper.
Mika said the 560 euros a month wouldn't be enough to live on, but it's given him flexibility for things like a family vacation or the possibility of starting his own business. He's proud to be part of the experiment in Finland, But he's not sold on the idea that you should continue receiving free cash even when you're well off.
There's no getting out. If I won $1 million at the lottery, they would still give it to me.
It's a pretty weird idea.
It's strange.
Our next step was to find out what the researchers think about the universal basic income experiment so far. Kela is the arm of the Finnish government that's implementing the trial. So we are at the office here at Kela in Helsinki. We're about to meet with one of the main researchers now. Researcher Miska Simamainen said he won't actually hear from any of the participants until the trial concludes at the end of 2018. But the experiment has already revealed one of the biggest issues with universal basic income: funding.
We had to make many practical compromises during the design process of the experiment.
Researchers only had enough funding to hand out cash to 2,000 people, and they chose to limit their sample to participants who were unemployed. Do you envision a world where eventually there could be everyone in Finland has universal basic income?
There is a strong consensus between political parties that the current social security system should be reformed.
Okay, so you heard that, right? So UBI is not enough to live on, but yet it does not stop coming. And it just doesn't stop coming. And it needs to, of course, have a limitless supply of money if this is going to happen. But what was interesting was that politicians looked at UBI as a way to reform Social Security, as a gentleman had said. Sound familiar, right? We keep hearing Social Security reform. Is it going to be UBI? And not only in Europe do they talk about Social Security reform, they also talk about pensions obligations that may need to be restructured, and it's often talked about in the U.S. as well. So is this the underlying reason why they're looking at UBI? But at the core of any economy, one of the things at its core is, of course, jobs. And where will jobs come from in a post-pandemic economy? And this is something we talked about before as well. And we made it pretty clear that jobs were going to come from the government. And you probably all already seen this or know this by now.
It's a once-in-a-generation investment in America, unlike anything we've seen or done since we built the interstate highway system and the space race decades ago. In fact, it's the largest American jobs investment since World War II. It will create millions of jobs, good-paying jobs. It will grow the economy, make us more competitive around the world, promote our national security interest, and put us in a position to win the global competition with China in the upcoming years. It's big, yes. It's bold, yes. And we can get it done.
Okay, so if you've been following our live streams, you know that we've loudly and long said the government is going to open up infrastructure jobs. And these jobs, they're going to be good paying jobs. They're going to be even union jobs, union pay scales. They're going to be competitive. Okay. And these jobs are going to last for years. I mean, when you have these types of projects, they last for years, if not decades. And why do we say this back then, or why have we always continued to say it? We said it because we knew this is what politicians want. They need this for votes. I mean, of course, they need people to get back to work to get the economy going as well. But people are going to see it as, I'm going to vote for this guy. He gave me a job that paid me well, and I have this job for a long time. And this is also what the Fed wants, to get inflation. And they're both going to win, the government and the Fed. Why did the Fed want this? Well, if you have a good paying job that you're going to be secure for decades, you are going to spend your money. Velocity of money kicks in, and then you really start to get inflation. So the American people, they're going to win short term, yes, but will soon after face economic, financial, family, and a freedom crisis, perhaps unlike ever before. And this is the tool that the Fed has long waited for to get the inflation that they want, that velocity of money. was for people to get back to work. And we've seen it throughout where, basically you had to get a vaccine so you can go back to work. You go back to work, the economy opens up, people have jobs and they spend money. This is something the Fed has wanted for a long time. So anyway, Biden reportedly bumps infrastructure price tag to 4 trillion with 3.5 trillion in tax hikes. Just a few key points here. The new infrastructure bill could cost more and have greater tax hikes than originally anticipated. Of course, it will. Washington Post reported that it could total 4 trillion with up to 3.5 trillion in tax hikes. Democrats have suggested various tax hikes, while Republicans have opposed all of them. Again, the show continues. I think all of us have kind of seen that. It's basically a show right now. It doesn't matter which side you're on. It's just a kind of like a seesaw that goes back and forth. But I'll give you one guess as to who's going to pay for this plan.
This notion of tax hikes, that's how this plan will be paid for, because that could actually outweigh any of the positive impact on the markets.
Yeah, well, let's just try to dissect that quickly. How do you trade it? Well, Karen's pointed this out literally for months, if not longer. I think I'm actually pretty confident that it made an all-time high today. And if you look at that stock, I mean, it was a $70 stock in the trough of last March, and I think it closed around $335 or so today. And probably, even given valuation, it's probably still reasonable in earnings in April. So names like that work. We've mentioned Caterpillar a number of times. In terms of taxes, I mean, you would think at some point the market's not going to like it. But when you're talking about $2 trillion, which is the number that I just heard, I mean, you could tax this entire country at 200%. It's not going to make a dent. I think we all realize that. I also think there's some optics involved here. But the market seems to be completely discounting the fact that taxes are going to go higher. One other of those things, we started with risky business. We'll add that to the list as well.
Taxes, not just for the individuals, but for corporations.
Okay, before I get on to read this part, I just saw news back in my home state of Hawaii. I think I showed this the other week where home prices were $800,000-$900,000. They were only on the market like a little bit over a week, and guys would be paying it, even bidding up prices. And I just checked in back home, and if you can believe, when this gentleman just talked about, I think it was United Rentals or whatever it was, to rent a car right now, in my home state, I've heard prices have gone up as high as $600 to rent a car. So it looks like companies that rent probably are going to be doing pretty well. So anyway, where's the money going to come from? It's going to come from you and me once again. But when you look at the words, the tone of these financial pundits that they are given, it seems like they've kind of given up. I mean, they know there is no way the U.S. can pay off any of what it is about to spend. They realize it. You realize it. I realize it. So do a lot of other countries. They don't want to hold U.S. debt anymore. And though there are opportunities out there still and money still to be made in this, a lot of spaces that many of us already know, there are places that we can still make money. And Biden is kind of letting you know where you can go ahead and maybe put your money. Okay, so it all looks like it's going to be renewable energies, even electric vehicles, and of course, that means items like nickel. It means items like copper. It means items like silver. Nickel is going to be key because governments are already telling us where they are going. And nickel, as mentioned before, is a key component in electric vehicle batteries. And it's going to get them there. So not trying to push or sell nickel. I'm just saying that, things are going to shift and we're going to see commodities that maybe once weren't a big investment item. We're going to start to see them really pick up because of this whole, green type of renewable energy type of transition that's going on.
There is some thought that there could be a credit, an EV credit in this on top of the $2 trillion in this package. And we saw Tesla go up today, as well as CCIV. And so, Bonawyn, I'm wondering if that's where you think the boost could be.
Yeah, I think that's a great call. It's hard for me to make the argument for Tesla because, to be honest, given how opaque that name is, it's hard to see what actually is priced in. So I would probably maneuver it slightly differently. A name like Run, First Solar, those names have actually come off quite a bit from their recent highs. And I think this might be an opportunity, and you've seen it in the trading today, to kind of re-enter there and play the spinning bill through that angle.
Yeah, TAN, the ETF, is up about a few percent in today's session. Tim, where would you go on infrastructure, and how do you factor in the taxes?
Well, I do. And solar companies run very differently than the growth at all costs of yesteryear. These are, in some cases, actually very profitable companies.
Okay, so that gentleman, not a Tesla fan, but again, people are realizing electric vehicles are going to come into play. And you're starting to see, again, a lot of talk about solar, which does mean silver. And other things do mean copper as well as we move into the electrification of everything. It's like a renaissance happening right now. So silver and nickel are going to play a huge role, and you're going to see this unfold. And taking in what we talked about today, you're going to see at least a partial UBI along with government infrastructure jobs, Social Security reform, pension reform, basically a flattening of wealth in order to distribute wealth. So no one falls into that donut hole. It's a donut economy, right? I mean, it seemed laughable at the beginning, but it kind of sure looks like that's where we're headed. And the thing is, hey, you and I, we're going to be paying for it. So really, the thing that needs to be said and put on the table is that, as I showed you, Asia is where growth is going, and it's already happening. In the West, we're seeing a flattening or leveling to financially equalize everyone as the countries go more and more, not just into debt, but generational debt. And we're seeing assets being shifted. We are seeing, let's just say what it is. We're seeing fake economies, the happiness of owning nothing. What's real anymore? It's not the news. It's not the economy. It's not governments as we knew it. And it's certainly not money. So we're in a shift, and it's just the beginning, and it's happening. We need to recognize it's happening. Now, I can only speak for myself, but in this fantasy land where central banks, politicians, mainstream media, social media feed us things that, at least my common sense says, cannot be true, can't be real, I turn to look at what is real, and of course that being things like gold and silver. So as we move deeper into this shift, deeper into sort of a tunnel, which will ultimately, looks like it's going to get a bit darker along the way, I firmly believe that things like gold and silver will make it through with us, and at some point be a shining light in the tunnel that humanity, right now all of us, are going to be, and I'll just use the word, going to be forced to pass through. So a lot of things are going to be coming up, and we just got to stay aware and help each other as much as we can. Peter Wilson, what's in your wallet? The big fat fingers of the government. Yep, I think you're gonna see that. Let's see. 4.9 fine. That's why you will own nothing. It does. I mean, I think we do have to recognize. There are things that are happening that some of us may not agree with, and this is why, again, we need to have as much options as we can. Let me see what else is out there before we head out. Let's see. The service economy is going very well. sarcasm or real? Because I think service economy is not doing too good, right? So okay, well, we'll see. We'll see. I mean, it's a point though. It is a point. Um, okay, let's see what else is out there before we wrap up. Fat vegan. I cry for my children regularly. I think a lot of people do, and it's because the world that we knew, it's not going to be the world that they are going to know, and definitely not our grandchildren. So again, when you talk about things like that, generations, there's also a positive side to that where you can you can you can build up generational wealth. And again, these are things like, and I'll say it again, gold and silver, which they are an inflation against hedge. It's an anti-dollar, anti-currency type of store of wealth, and these are things that'll make it through. My opinion, it'll make it through. Generational wealth. I mean, I think that's what we got to be looking at, because it seems like generations are going to change. So it's much better to have a little bit of wealth if you can to get through these changes. And again, help out when you can. Be a blessing, not a burden. I mean, I think we can see a lot of people are going to need help, and might be some of us here. A lot of people are going to need help, but let's do the best we can. Let's do the best we can. Mitch, Alex, happy Easter. Appreciate it. And so with that, I'll be wrapping up. Thank you for being here. A lot of fumbling going on. Apologies for the fumbling, but let's just do the best we can. We're all in this same boat together, and as always, saddle up for what's coming ahead and silver up as well. And I'll see you guys next week. Take care.